Good afternoon. I'd like to call the May 3rd board meeting that we recessed back in order today on May 13th, 2022, and take the opportunity to welcome you all. As this is a continuation, we will begin where we left off. The public is encouraged and welcome to address the school board at the hearing of citizens for general comment after we adjourn the meeting. The board clerk, Kathy Tompkins, collects the cards for our hearing, as we probably already have all the cards that we will accept. She'll be giving those cards to us so that we can go forward at the end of the meeting after we adjourn. We'll call you forward at the appropriate time. I think we're going to continue right now with our first item, which is the additions and corrections to the agenda. Dr. Asplin, do we have a number of changes?
Yes, Madam Chair. Item number 7, April 19th, board meeting minutes were revised. Also, item number 8, the Human Resources Personnel Reports were moved to May 17th agenda. Item 16, this item was moved to the June 7th board agenda for further review by staff, and that was the approval of the renewals to purchase materials or services for fiscal year 2023 that are exempt from the bidding process. Also, item 19 was deleted from the board agenda, approval to increase the purchase limit for bid number 19-0040 for classroom instructional materials. Also, item number 30 was deleted, purchase of the Heinemann curriculum resources from the board agenda. It's under review by the curriculum department. And then items number 32 and 33, those are agenda items were moved to the May 17th board agenda. Those were the request from legal counsel to schedule private meeting for advice concerning settlement negotiations and or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures.
May I have a motion, please?
I move the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Please vote.
It's not coming up. There it is.
There we are. And the motion carries unanimously, I think. Mine is not coming up on the screen.
I can't vote. We can do a voice vote. I can't. Mine hasn't
I'm
come
not
up yet.
coming up either.
Jeepers. Okay, let's have a voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying nay. The motion carries unanimously. Does anyone have any comments before we move on to new business? Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you so much. I know that we had a number of emails about reading recovery and LLI, and I know I spoke with the superintendent, and I know this is a little unique because we're a continuation, but there were no items on the agenda that regarded those two items. I know we spoke about it at a workshop, but I just wanted to make that clarification. Thank you.
Moving on to the next item. Oh, I'm sorry, Karen Rose.
Cancel that, please. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, moving on to new business. May I have a motion, please, on item number 27? I hope I've got that right.
I move the approval of the articulation agreement between the board, Suncoast Technical College, and Sarasota County Charter Schools, home schools, and private schools.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I took this off of the consent agenda and wanted to move it to new business because I wanted to talk about the agreements for our public school students. I know that there's agreements in place for charter schools and for private schools for reimbursement policies. in light of the way things have been going with Tallahassee now approving charter schools, there's a question about whether or not, I know at one point homeschooling was considered to have the opportunity to have vouchers. If it didn't go through in this session, it may go through in some future session. So what I'd like to do is make sure that it's very clear the reimbursement policies for charter schools, private schools, and homeschooling. And lastly, with the changes I think that are going to happen to charter schools, I'd like to make sure that our public school students have right of first refusal for dual enrollment and opportunities at STC in the North Branch and the South County Branch. To define charter schools, I want to make sure that if it's a charter school that the district oversees the finance of that charter school, that is, in my mind, a public school student. When it's a charter school for profit or a private school, it's a different mindset. So I'd like to make sure two things: that the reimbursement policies are clear for all three of those situations, and that public school students have right of first refusal.
I think that's a very good point, Mr. Edwards, because there are some issues around this whole space. And spaces for those spots will fill up. They're full right now. So I think it's imperative. I mean, we have to have some priority for our own students. So I think that's a really excellent point. Mrs. Brown mentioned something about vouchers and those scholarships that we're going through and what they cost us. And I did express or check with Tom Serra in Miami, and Miami is very concerned, and some of the other districts are very concerned, so that will be discussed in early June at our conference. Any other? Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that point. I just want to make sure that, and I was trying to pull this up because it's really the May 3rd meeting that we're on. Is there any amendment? I mean, so I know this was on new business and it's articulation agreement, and I can pull up the contract, but is there any change that would need to be addressed? I mean, to satisfy what you're bringing forward? I just don't want to be fair if we're voting on something, the language, to my knowledge, hasn't changed, but would that require a stipulation change? That would be to General Counsel or to Mr. Edwards.
Jody is coming forward, Jody Dumas, our COO. We need to cue it up.
Okay, I think I'm on now. Thank you. Standing in for Dr. DePillo today on this particular item. My suggestion would be, if we want to look at something in terms of changing the contract language, that we push it back to staff, let staff take a look at that, possibly bring it back in a workshop. We do have some time on these agreements to be able to bring them back to you. We're not time sensitive, so I think that I would make that suggestion. Let staff do a little more research, especially in terms of limiting space to K-12 public school students first. We'll bring it back to you at a future date.
Okay, so we're going to table it?
That would be my suggestion.
Let's table it because things are getting pushed back a little bit too much. So let's table it to our next board meeting, which is really Tuesday, which doesn't give us much time.
So I withdraw my motion to
You
approve.
withdraw your motion. Thank you. Mrs. Brown.
That I was hoping
what
to
you
get
were
an
saying.
answer, and that's all I needed to talk about.
All right. So we're
So if we
withdrawing the motion
if we
pending.
table it, what date would you like, would it be a workshop date
How
if
soon
we
would
were
you
to
be
do
ready?
that? Because we would need to do it it would need to be a workshop.
I would suggest let us bring it back for a workshop, make sure we're all on the same page, then we can put it back on agenda. That seems to be, I think, the best course forward.
Do we need a motion to, unless there's no dissent, do we need a motion to formally remove it, or?
I'll make a motion to remove item 27 from new business until it can be workshopped on the 27th.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, vote. Can we? June 14th.
June
June
14th.
14th. So we have a voice vote. All in favor, please stipulate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Motion carries unanimously. On to item number 28. May I have a motion, please?
I move the approval of the new job description for Assistant Director of Transportation.
Second. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Ziegler.
I just want to talk a lot today. No, I'm kidding. No, I just been anytime we have a new job description, I think it's incumbent upon the public to know. And I know I spoke with the superintendent. This is expanding upon the duties of that particular job description. It's not adding a new individual. Could you just expand upon that?
Yes, Mr. Dumas will expand on that. As you know, we've had a change in transportation as well. We have no director at this point in time. We have an acting director. And with that said, we need an assistant director to help us with this, especially with everything going on in transportation right now with the shortage of drivers and route changes and all the things that we're dealing with. So, Mr. Dumas, if you can take it from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Opportunity to comment. It was the perfect time to make this change. It's the last large department that does not have a clear number two. It was always been an operations manager in that department who functioned as assistant director. And so with the reorganization in an open director position, I think the opposite, given it's also budget time, a good opportunity to make that change now to realign what that position actually is doing to a job description that makes some sense. So it is eliminating the operations manager and inserting an assistant director position in a department of about 450 people. So.
How are we doing with bus drivers?
So just had a phone call with Charlotte Price, who is our acting director today in transportation. Fridays are notoriously tough days. She is running the radio and dispatch. There's nobody else in dispatch with her. And we are actually running connected messages on late buses out of the communications department because we didn't have the staff to do it in transportation today. So very, very difficult situation today. Charlotte and team are doing everything they can to keep buses on time. So we're continuing trying to recruit drivers into transportation.
Thank you for that, and we beg the patience of our pupils and their parents because it's very difficult right now, and traffic has slowed down a bit. We're grateful for that, but it is very, very difficult, and hope that everyone is patient with us. Karen Rose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It shows the financial impact as NA. The assistant director isn't going to be an added cost over what I understand to be a manager at this point?
And so obviously in operations, we always try to make zero budget impact when we're making changes. We're able to do this budget neutral. We move some other money around, so it is a budget neutral impact in the transportation department by moving some money around and not doing some other things. So again, no budget impact, but the upgrade of the position.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair. Just as a point of clarification in the future, so thank you, because I was going to ask the same question, and might I, because I know we talk about these a lot of time when job descriptions or positions, and just a recommendation, if it is NA, if it's budget neutral, that we add that in there just to help all of us, I think, just to point that out. Thank you.
If there are no further comments, please vote. Are we voting? Oh, there we go. Yeah, wonderful. It came up. It's always a good sign. Let's see if it's working on my screen. And it's not working on my screen. So it's motion carries by what, 4-1?
I'm in favor of it, but
Oh, you can't vote?
I did not come up, sorry.
Okay, so going back,
Oh, there it came. Hello. Is that helpful? Yes.
okay, I don't know if it's helpful or not. It's not coming up. So the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Tom. Moving along to the next item, which I believe is item number 29.
I move the approval of the potential additional session descriptions with potential additional independent presenter bios as presented.
Second? Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And the motion carries. Who didn't, somebody not vote? Everybody voted? And the motion carries 4-1 with a dissent from, I'm sorry. Karen Rose. I'm sorry, I cannot see that far in the distance. Mine is not coming up, it's not working. It should come up on my screen, and it's not doing that. Item number 30 was pulled. Item number 31.
I move the approval of purchase of hand-to-hand curriculum resources as presented for the, I believe it's for the summer learning academies.
Second? Any discussion? I am so excited that the Summer Learning Academy is going to be happening this year because, you know, that's my very favorite thing in the world. Prevents summer slide. It gives our kids something to do who normally don't go to the beach and don't go on vacation. And so I would encourage all of you to visit some of those programs, be a volunteer at those programs. They're just absolutely wonderful. And I'm very excited about us returning to that after the, 2 years of absence. Any other discussion? Mrs. Brown?
I agree with you. It's great that we're having these summer academies, and I hope that parents and children take advantage of that. And this program, it's just a portion of what we do. It's funded through Title I dollars.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And the motion carries 5-0 unanimously. And I think that ends new business. Now we're up for announcements and communications. Does anyone have an announcement or a comment? Mrs. Brown?
I just want to motion, that it took us all of 20 minutes to do that. And that's how long some people would have had to wait if they waited patiently to come back to finish their discussion at the last board meeting. We wouldn't have had to adjourn if people just had patience for 20 minutes.
Mrs. Rose?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to share that I've had some emails that have gone to all board members. Some are just coming to me because I have been vocal on the exceptional student education, special education reading materials. There is a strong advocacy from the parent group Dyslexia Florida and other literacy Florida organizations pleading for us to look at a program that is research based for special education along the lines of Orton Gillingham. I have discussed the data multiple times with our current reading programs and that it is working for in 2021, the students that went through reading recovery, 50% were at grade level at third grade, which is the goal. And having been a special education teacher for 13 and a half years and an exceptional student education liaison, I just want those families to know that I stand with them. There are programs that will show that we can make significantly more progress with our special education students that I strongly want to advocate for, particularly in the special education, exceptional student education reading pilots that are coming up. I feel if we don't give that some serious consideration, we are doing a disservice to the students that need us the most, and that is reflected in that they are the largest group of students that have a need with roughly 27% of those being able to read at grade level for the last 5 years. So I want those parents to know I stand with you, and I will continue to be an exceptionally strong advocate that we add additional resources. Thank you very much.
Mr. Edwards?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to take a few moments to talk about public comments. And I want to be as clear and as transparent as I possibly can be as an individual board member as to why I voted for the change in policy. As a new school board member and having financial oversight and business oversight of a $1 billion budget, I found it incredibly taxing to sit through sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours of public comment that was varied, that was from one extreme to the other, to the other, to the other. And I thought that organizing public comments to speak on agenda items only before we vote on agenda was specific to making good, sound business decisions. To hear from the public is important, and to hear about their specific concerns about an agenda item that I'm about to vote on is even more crucial, and not to have it diluted with a multitude of other types of things. So that agenda items for me were important on the front end of the meeting, and then giving everyone their freedom of speech to have at it. Say whatever you want, personal attacks, go crazy, do what you need to do to speak to the school board. I just thought that that made a whole lot more sense for me as an individual. And lastly, I think that there are critics of the policy that have said that we've eliminated or tried to stifle the public voice, when in fact there were originally 3 minutes and now we have 4, because they can speak 2 minutes on an agenda item and 2 minutes in a general topic. So they've actually gained a minute of public comments as an individual. So I look forward to public comments in the future being organized and orderly in this fashion.
Mrs. Brown?
I just wanted to follow up on the reading recovery and the reading programs. There has been discussions at the board about why aren't our kids reading better. And I would advise all of you to go to our website and look up the workshop from May 10th and listen to what the presenters put forward and what we're doing in our schools. We had administrators and we had teachers talking about the things that they're doing, not only for ESE students, but for our other students also. We are paying a lot of attention to this, and it was also announced that we're working with the Community Foundation on a multi-million-dollar grant to work specifically with students with dyslexia. I was surprised to see, though, when I was looking at a lot of the emails that Ms. Rose referred to, is that, again, we were getting a lot of emails from parents whose students, didn't attend our schools, which kind of surprised me. Why do they? I don't know where they get their information about what's going on in our schools, but I think it's important that we listen to that. But I put more weight on when I hear information from parents of students in our schools about what they want to see in the education and how happy they are with the services that we're providing them.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Thank you. Excuse me. I have two parts that I want to speak to. One is the components about the members of the community who have reached out as it pertains to dyslexia, and then public comment. I know I've spoken with Mr. Renoff and also Dr. Asplin as it pertains to when the discussion about reading recovery, but also we had received a number of emails, and they were not, it was not like an email. Well, I didn't take it as an email campaign because they seem to be a very individual to each family or individual who's writing their experience. And many of them, at least what I took away from it, did actually at one point did attend our schools, but found that once identifying that their child was dyslexic, were not finding the gains that they had hoped, and then found it elsewhere. And each one had their own journey. Some are still in their district, and some aren't. And so, to me, as I look forward, I think this is something that, as I was talking with someone as a follow-up, I know this board is known as not necessarily always agreeing on a variety of things, but over the course of some time, I would say the dyslexic piece is something that I see Mrs. Goodwin nodding her head yes, and I remember Mrs. Zucker would be something that was very important to her as well. And so, I sit there and scratch my head of saying, why haven't we been able to move this forward? And so I would like this board together to if this is something we are all focused on, to really make that clear that it's not so much is it removing one or not. I think what my takeaway is that we need to provide an option. I know that there has been discussions about what the community foundation will be providing, and that's wonderful. But I think this is a great unifying moment for us to really identify options for our families. But I do think this is a gap, and I don't take it as I think the people who've reached out, whether they're still in our schools or not, I think they took the time to explain their journey and the option of and benefit to other families and students that are not necessarily being reached. So I thank them for that, and do want to see that be a major priority and look forward to that being taken very seriously. The other part I want to say is, as it pertains to public comment, I know this has been a discussion for a long time, and I will start with, I understand that there are a lot of passions out there, and I don't diminish them, especially, again, as I say, I think when it comes down to the education of anyone's children, particularly your own, that is a place in which is going to come from you're going to come forward with a lot of passion. As an individual board member, my concern about changing the policy was, in a moment of high anxiety and high emotion, was whether or not that would de-escalate the situation or create more of an escalation. And I think that the confusion of it is a challenge. And what I don't want, I do believe that we need to make sure that we're hearing from our citizens, and that whether it be separated, my concern was, again, about the disruption and then now the efficiency, and then further escalating frustrations, some being perception, some being real. And as a board, I think that it is important that we try to control what we can control, and try to de-escalate things. And that means as individual board members and discussing things up here, but also how we run the meeting. And I believe that we have a role to play, that we can assist, particularly in the dynamics of when comments are made or what have you, or how we run the meeting as far as being separated. I will say to any member of the public, I do want to hear everything that you're saying, whether it is a support of the district or of individual members or opposing. I think you all are absolutely warranted that. I do have an issue when it comes to members of staff. I always say very vocally, we are elected officials. We walked into this arena voluntarily, but I do believe that there are people within this district that are here to support and help us. And I think that directing any of your grievances, I will listen to them all day long, but I do respectfully request that those grievances be directed to us, and then we work through them accordingly. Because I think that this district and this community has a lot of great things going on. But there's also some opportunities for improvement, and I think that starts with being able to listen uninterrupted to members of the public, no matter what they have to say, and working through all of those problems respectfully together. So, with that, I think there are additional discussions as it pertains to the policy. I have no interest in doing that today, but I think it's something we do need to revisit, particularly if we want to see a more efficient, unifying meeting to hear from citizens. And I do also recognize that I'm not an attorney, but there was a recent opinion on the Sixth Circuit Court as it pertains to the Ohio School District, as it pertained to their public comment policy, and that they found it to be unconstitutional. I think it is worthwhile us visiting this. And again, I'm asking any member of the public, whether they're here or coming at future meetings, I encourage you to share your opinions. I just want to make sure that we share them in a manner where we can hear and listen and move forward. And I ask the board and whoever's running the meeting to respect that equally. So that's all.
Thank you. I'm going to speak now before we call on anyone else. I want to talk a little bit about reading. It is an important thing to my personal heart that we do more for dyslexia. It's 20% of our students. I'm going to do more research. The University of Florida, which is the preeminent teacher training institution in this state, has some new things that they are looking at in teacher training, which makes me very excited about the science of reading. And I think that that coupled with, I know, the emphasis from our ESE chair and from the collaboration with the Community Foundation, we will be doing more, but it certainly is an emphasis for me and a personal emphasis for me, so I'm in agreement. As far as public comment go, give us a chance to try a new way of doing this before we throw the baby out with the bathwater. We want to hear everything you have to say. We opened up cards today so that those people who already filled out a card can speak, and then any others that came today can be heard as well. So we do care about listening to you. We do hope that it goes well, but one size does not fit all in reading and learning to read, and one size does not fit all in board meetings and comments either. So we have to be respectful, and I'm using the collective we, not I, because we are a board. We are not one person, but we are 5 people. So I'm hoping that we will, be attuned to that as well. So up next, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to also speak on reading. And that's a perfect example in terms of public comment, because if you use the analogy of all of the emails that I received, as Ms. Rose referenced, and honestly, I don't look to see ever whether it's a public comment or a person sending an email, if the person has students in our schools or not. I really look at the content of the information, because I'm not an educator. And if somebody has a really good idea, and I've heard them in public comments, and reading is certainly something that is a concern of not just of everyone sitting on the dais, but from our public. So I listen intently. And when it comes to things like that, having it diluted with all of the other types of comments makes it really hard when you're trying to concentrate on specific agenda items. So I want to reiterate that. And also, I want to say that I have said this before. I think the world has changed in terms of public comments at school board meetings, and I'm going to reiterate that again. Our governor has said how important school board meetings are and the school board elections are, which has opened up a floodgate of political conversations at school board meetings, not just here in Sarasota, but across the state and across the country. And that's a common fact that you could read in just about any news publication. And if that's the case, I'm not at all opposed to political comments or any of that kind of information coming, as Mrs. Ziegler points out. I'm an elected official, and I'm here to hear whatever anyone has to say about that. It's just that, to me, it makes sense to organize it in a certain place at the end of the meeting, so that what's most important, which is the education and outcomes of our students and the care and concern of their families, is concentrated and focused on the front end of the meeting. So thank you for that follow-up, Madam Chair.
Mrs. Brown.
I also think that there is a decorum that needs to be held, and I think that we hold students to certain standards, and I don't think it's unreasonable to ask our parents to have those same standards. It would be objectionable for a student to call a gay student a pervert in class. It shouldn't happen at the board table either. And I also felt that the language that was used to read excerpts from books was objectionable. I mean, by their own feeling, there's people who oppose these books, but there's a difference between taking a book out of a library and choosing to read it, and then having somebody read it out loud with young children in the audience. How hypocritical. But besides that, we have a procedure for removing books from our libraries or from our classrooms. That procedure does not say you come to the board table. There are forms to be taken, and I would hope, again, that if anyone tries to do that, that I would hope that the superintendent would, as the policy says, direct those people to the procedures to follow. Reading objectionable material at a board table is not part of that procedure. And I agree with Ms. Ziegler in that, yes, we should be working together. And I know that there was, not by a board member, but by an outside organization with a email thing, and I had conversations with several of these people, and back and forth. I think there was 3 and 4 and 5 backs and forth with some of them. But I also think that we as board members have to be careful, not only what we say at the board table, but what we say in our own social media. I think it's wrong for a board member to imply that we're doing something in our classrooms that we're not. I mean, I think it's important for board members to explain to people what steps can be taken if there's a book or something that they don't like and how they can do it. Coming to the board table is not the way to object to any materials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Dr. Asplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention a couple things about the reading programs as well. The other day when we had our workshop, I thought it was a great workshop, and, reading recovery was there, and we also talked about the LLI program, and just to remind everybody, that was to, again, not to be on a board meeting to vote on or anything. That was just to let everybody know what we're doing, just to explain that we have reading recovery. This is what it's all about. We have LLI. This is what it's all about, and that's a pilot for our ESE grant that we received. And so hopefully that was beneficial for everyone. I also wanted to just mention that, you're right. One size does not fit all. We have many, many programs, many reading programs in our school district. For instance, in Tier 1, remember, Tier 1 instruction is for everyone. It's for all. Benchmark, we use Benchmark, and then we also have Heggerty. Heggerty is for phonics, and we have that in our schools as well across the board. So those 2 items are there. Along with reading recovery and LLI, and that's for, when you're looking into Tier 1 or Tier 2 and Tier 3, looking at interventions and so forth. But I agree. I think there's always room to find something that works for others, and there's always room for us to have our teachers have more in their toolbox or their tool belt, so to speak, so that we are helping all of our students, no matter who they are, with the needs that they might have. I'll tell you, I looked into the Wilson program again. By the way, at Gocio, we have Wilson a little bit. And in another school district that I know very, very well, there's Wilson there. And so, I made some calls to some old friends and so forth and looked some things up on the internet too, and just to see where we are, because some of that changes over the years, and it has changed a little bit in the last 3 to 4 years, the Wilson piece, which is really part of Oregon Gillingham, really. But the Tier 1 piece of Wilson is Wilson Foundations, which is a little bit different than what it used to be called. And then Tier 2 is Wilson Works. And then in Wilson, you have Tier 3, which is Wilson Reading System. And so those are areas that we can continue to look into and see what those are about, and if we need to possibly utilize this community foundation as a pilot with the money and possibly the Strauss grant that we have, that maybe we could utilize that to train our teachers and, again, add more to their toolbox in that regard. So it's definitely something that we're not opposed to ever. And when something's not working, we definitely want to get rid of it. But when we have things that are working, let's add to that and fulfill the needs of the students and add to the toolbox of the teachers. So we're looking forward to that, looking at that. Wilson, and if there's anything else out there that's, that's new, that might be, that might work out real well. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that. And, we just want all of our students to be successful and be able to read by third grade. That's our goal. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Rose?
I just have to say, Dr. Asplund, thank you. That's exciting. I very, very much like your feedback. Thank you.
Our next scheduled board meeting will be held quickly in the Northport City Hall chambers on May the 17th, which is next Tuesday at 3 p.m. And that's due to the fact that we have the Northport High School graduation that evening, and we had promised that we would go to Venice City Hall and to Northport this year. So I want to make you all aware of that. Next week is graduation week, and we're really excited about that. We start with Northport on Tuesday night, and we end up with Pineview on Sunday afternoon. We're adjourned. And for any of you who wish to leave, you may do so now. Otherwise, we will continue at this point in our meeting, going to hear the citizens wishing to speak in a general topic mode. At this point in the meeting, we're going to hear from citizens wishing to speak who have completely filled out and submitted a citizen's card. If your full name is written on the card and you have failed to complete or sign the card, your name will not be called. We have a group of people from last Tuesday, May 3rd's meeting, and others that signed up today. You will not be able to speak twice. You will only speak once. So if anyone has filled out a card today and had a card previously, I think we have made those changes or revisions. Furthermore, people speaking to the school board shall not make remarks which are irrelevant to the business of the school board or which are abusive, threatening, defamatory, obscene, profane, or otherwise of a disorderly nature. As such, it's not a forum for attacking individual employees of the school board. Any such complaint should be submitted in writing to the superintendent. It's unlawful to disrupt or interfere with a school board meeting, and any such action may result in a misdemeanor or offense of the second degree. At the discretion of the presiding officer pursuant to Florida Statute 1001.372(3), which for purposes of public comment today is me, any individual who interferes with the expeditious or orderly process of this meeting will be removed. This is a business meeting of the school board, and the public expects that we conduct it in an orderly, efficient, effective, and dignified manner. We humbly ask that you act as you were taught as a child. Be respectful of others and treat them as you would want to be treated. Finally, as public servants elected by the people of this county, we will listen with open minds and open hearts to your comments. We respect your First Amendment right to freedom of speech, and as a citizen of this great country, you must understand that your rights are not absolute. So you're free to speak your mind, but you cannot defame an individual or yell fire in a crowded theater. With rights comes responsibilities. Shh, children are watching. So we begin. Mr. Edwards.
Okay, we have 33 speakers tonight, and so I'm going to call 3 people up, and once that queue is established, I'll be calling 1. So it's important that when you get to the mic, you announce your name so that we know who is speaking. And the reason for having you queue up is so that from a timeline, it's a little quicker to have people ready to speak and ready to go. Michelle Posey, Barbara Vaughn, Melissa Radovich.
Michelle Posey, District 3. Last meeting, the agenda numbers were changed, the agenda item numbers. This was admitted later on in the evening by Ms. Tompkins, which is a direct violation of the School Board Policy 2.22, Section 4, which states either the chair or a majority vote by the board has to be held in order to do that. So I presume Acting Chair Tom Edwards then changed the item numbers, or the majority of the board voted to do so. If not, then congratulations, you've actually become masters at breaking the law and your own policy. It's important to also note that our comment cards were handed to the board council, an unelected member of this board, last meeting. That's not allowed. Back in October of 2021, I made a simple records request asking for emails regarding comments that Jane and Shirley had made that they received threatening messages. I wanted a copy of those emails. After 3 weeks of emailing, asking where the records were, imagine my astonishment when board counsel Dan DeLeo responded to me that he would check on it. Now, I copy each of you in my emails, for better, for worse. I know sometimes some of you don't like that, but I do, just to be open. So, Mr. Edwards, in the April workshop, when you claimed you were astonished at how easy it is for billable hours to be created, I have to say you're incorrect. You're either really incompetent in your duties or you're trying to deceive the public, because I copied you in all of those messages with DeLeo. Did you not question at the time, why is council involved in a simple records request? How much is this costing us? Now, on 12/16/2021, I had been asked to give council a call. That's how I was going to get more information on my records request. That's 6 weeks after I made the request. I declined and asked, please send them to me in email form. I copied all of you on those emails. I was told by Mr. DeLeo I didn't get my information because I refused to call him on his cell phone.
John Wilson?
Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Vaughn. Most of you know me by now, and you know why I'm here. It's constantly a disappointment and a source of sadness to me that this meeting, as important as it is not begun with prayer. I've been delighted to see our junior ROTC members here to do an honor guard and present our flags and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Wonderful things, wonderful for the students, wonderful for all of us who are here. But shouldn't there be at least a short prayer? I'm going to keep it short today because I've taken up too much time explaining why I'm here and why I think this is important. We can't pray in school anymore, and that might be the primary reason our schools are such a mess. But we're going to pray at these school board meetings every time I can possibly be here. Father God, we ask you to make your presence felt in this room. Spread your Holy Spirit over each person here. Bless each parent, each citizen who has taken the time out of their busy schedule to be here and make their comments known. Bless each member of our school board, Lord. Help them to make good decisions. Help them to concentrate primarily on our children and then on our parents and on our citizens, our taxpayers. Help them to be fiscally responsible, Lord. The ungodly amounts of money that are being spent by the school board just absolutely leave me speechless. Pray, Lord, that you would guide them in every decision they make to be responsible with our tax dollars. Thank you, Lord, for being
Melissa
here with us
Radovich.
today.
And Melissa Bakandi.
Melissa Radovich. Almost 20 news outlets have reported on the recent Sarasota school board meetings. Why? Because our chair requests the removal of parents by the school board police because the vice chair and attorney decided not to allow 3 conservative mothers to speak, including myself. To make these meetings, we have to leave work early, pick up our kids, eat dinner, and finish homework in the car. But I chose to show up for our kids and against pornography in our school libraries. And for you to decide that I wasn't allowed to speak after filling correctly out a comment card is egregious. Now, here is why I assume I wasn't allowed to speak. I was going to read obscene quotes from 4 books and list the schools that these books are in so 1, the parents know, and 2, they can do something. I did a FOIA request in a school, and I met with the gentleman who gives the go or the no-go for the books in our schools, and he honestly told me, I shouldn't tell you this, but I do not like to remove books for school. I understand that it's not his choice. So as a parent and a board member, the bluest eye is at Booker, Pineview, and Sarasota High. The lawn boy is at Riverview. Almost Perfect is in Booker and Venice High, and they need to go. On Tuesday, Tom, Dan, and 2 school board candidates attended an event where attendees were asked to support a petition to keep pornographic materials in schools and compared conservatives to book-burning genocidal Nazis. 3 times they did this, and it's too much. There's a video, so you can refer to your video. Lastly, while you are questioning Riverview about their books, you can ask them about the attack against the Young Americans for Freedom Club. Ask them about the investigation, which was bogus and did nothing against the actual attack on our kids. Colin Lopez is
Thank
here
you,
from Riverview.
Robert Louis
He's an
Kraft.
officer for the club, and you need to speak to the students.
Thank you.
Will not
Next.
allow a Marxist agenda
Next.
take over our county. We will stand together for our kids and our conservative values. Thank
Chief.
you, and wake up.
Stop the clapping, please.
Starts, I want to go ahead and address school board policy, because this meeting is ran by Robert's rules. So let's go ahead and address Chapter 2, School Board Governance and Organization. We'll go down to Section 5, subsection A. The sign-up period for all public comments, both agenda and not agenda, will close at the start of the board meeting. All attendees shall be afforded opportunity to speak any given item unless it's otherwise requested by chair. Okay, so this meeting started a week ago. Every person that came here today to fill out a comment card, those are void, because we're going by policy. You're having item, non-item speaking. So we're going to go by policy today. So whoever signed up today, they're not speaking today. So are you guys ready for me to start my time?
Already started your time, John.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you
Because
did.
you're breaking your policy. You choose what policies you want to enact. Go ahead, go look over. You're breaking your own policy, okay? And that's the problem here. You pick and choose what policies are going to be enforced. Is that correct? I mean, we're not following policy here in this room? Are we not following the policy that you put in effect? That has nothing to do with my time. It has to do with school board policy, the way you run these meetings. So what are we doing here? I'm asking the chair, because my time.
And
you're
I'm
allowed
not
to-
going to answer, John.
What? Well, go ahead, answer me. What is it? Are you going to change the policy to whenever you feel like it on a whim? But you started the beginning of the meeting where we had to speak on agenda items. So what are we speaking on today? We're going to change a policy because you have other speakers that wanted to come? Listen,
Thank
I'm
you.
talking on my time.
Tanya Paros.
I'm going to go ahead and talk about your smoke show reading recoveries. Yeah, because I was here.
Your time is up, John.
It's not up. I'm talking about your policy. I am not talking about my time. And he should know what the policy is.
I'm giving you, no, I've already given the warning.
I want to talk about reading recovery as your failure. And then she wants to talk about, oh, listen, look at the workshop. Don't worry, it's going to come out. And all you people that push reading recovery, you're going to be accountable.
Is my mic on? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Goodwin. Your censorship has given me a voice. I would like to highlight some general issues. Issue number 1, the leftist woke gender ideology is alive and well in Sarasota County schools. The Pineview principal has reportedly directed staff to stop using the terms boys and girls and is allowing teachers to wear rainbow pride shirts complete with rainbow tutus in their classrooms. Fruitville Elementary has stopped giving out prizes for the fastest boy and the fastest girl at its jogathon, all because they don't want to hurt any feelings. We reject this. Our children do not need to be involved in woke gender ideology. This is also a violation of the Florida DOH's new gender dysphoria guidelines, which state that gender transitioning, whether physical or social, should not be encouraged in adolescence. Sarasota County schools need to change their gender policies immediately. There should be no preferred pronouns, no choice of bathrooms based on preferred gender, no flyers from Also Youth advertising positive gender transition counseling, and absolutely no artwork from Embracing Our Differences, which promotes gender transitioning. Issue number 2, the Equity Committee is illegal. It is CRT victimhood in disguise. This needs to be disbanded immediately. Issue number 3, public trust in Sarasota County schools is at an all-time low. It's time to allow parents to walk their children into school, come eat lunch with their children, and freely speak at board meetings without the fear of being arrested by Ms. Goodwin. Ms. Goodwin, you have blatantly abused your power as school board chair. You are reported to have created a code word. When you spoke this code word, the chief of police even said this. He was to then go remove and arrest a parent speaking at the school board. Ms. Goodwin, why are you so scared of public input? Is it because of what we might uncover? And I just want to remind the school board police officers that despite your duty to obey Ms. Goodwin's unconstitutional orders, you may not have qualified immunity in the court of law when you allow for stripping citizens of their civil rights. And finally, Ms. Goodwin, the Observer newspaper of Sarasota has called for your resignation. And like you told me at the last meeting, please leave. You're politically done.
Alexis Spiegelman.
Madam Chair, point of order, please. I would like advice from legal counsel if indeed we're following policy and if we need to do some kind of vote here. If we're not, I would like affirmation of that, please.
Are you asking about the comments by the gentleman who just spoke at the podium?
I'm asking that if public comment can continue beyond the cards that were turned in from the meeting that was adjourned without us voting on it.
95% of what the gentleman said was erroneous and incorrect. There isn't an issue with regard to that, what you just identified.
Thank you for the confirmation.
My name is Tanya Paris, Sarasota County Moms for America. I'd like to read this to you and see if you recognize it. I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and the government of the United States and of the state of Florida, and that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of school board member, Sarasota County, Florida, of which I am about to enter, so help me God. These were in fact your words you spoke, with your left hand on a Bible and your right hand raised. Your duties which you swore to before God, before a judge, before your peers, before your family and your constituents, and was the promise that you made to all of us. From that moment, this board has repeatedly taken the law of the state and the Constitution into its own redefined manner. This board has in fact broken laws, destroyed trust, divided our community, and has worked very hard to make it almost impossible for us to speak, as is given under our First Amendment constitutional right. I plead with this board. Please remind yourselves what position of power you hold and swore to, and start to hold yourselves accountable for your actions and your words, as they are also governed by the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida, and are not in fact governed by your political views, and certainly not your personal opinions. The behavior of your constituents relies solely on this board, well and faithfully performing its duties as they so solemnly swore to on that day. And I know I can speak for over 500,000 Moms for America members across the United States when I say that we will always hold every school board member accountable for their oath. And when or if it's broken, you can be assured that we will always respectfully be there to remind you. Thank you and God bless.
Lisa Schur, Paulina Testerman.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexis Spiegelman, Moms for Liberty, Sarasota. I think Ms. Brown's comment about whose input matters and whose input does not illustrates one of the fundamental problems with the majority's leadership on our board. While 2 of the 3 members of the board with seats up for election are retiring, our community needs to understand that we must replace them with public servants who do not hold the same mentality. If we pass the baton to anyone sharing Ms. Brown's mindset, nothing will change. This is why we need to replace them with citizens that subscribe to the principles our country was founded upon on August 23rd, 2022. That's when our school board election is. And with representatives that understand that every Sarasota County constituent has a personal interest in what takes place in our public schools. This generation will one day lead our country, run our hospitals, serve in our military, and as Ronald Reagan warned us, we are only one generation away from our liberty's extinction. Though our school district insists they have media specialists and procedures in place to make sure all the materials coming into our schools that are appropriate and free from pornography, the people in the schools will tell you that they simply don't have time to vet all of the materials. Ms. Ziegler has brought this up in the January 13, 2022 workshop in which this process was discussed, and I emailed you all about that. And you replied with your policy, which I think is wonderful. But my question is, if statutorily you are responsible to know what is in your library and what you're making available, and if it was so inappropriate for me to read in front of a child, why is it in Pineview when that school is from 2nd grade up? And if it was so inappropriate that our superintendent ran and pulled it from the shelf because he heard his moral compass beckoning him, yet when a lawsuit is threatened, he decided that gave him a reason to put it back on the shelf. Who's deciding which lawsuits matter? Because could it be that that's contributing to our bloated legal bills? If constituents have to sue you in order to get you to consider their opinion, that could be part of the problem.
Point of order, Madam Chair. I'd like to clarify, I believe Ms. Spiegelman misinterpreted or
We're not going to do that, Shirley, please.
My words were that I did read letters from those who were not, and you can see that I replied to them. But I say I give more weight to the parents of the children in our school.
Please.
My name is Lisa Schur. I'm a parent of a child in the district, and I support our public schools. I'm here to address the lease agreement with Take Stock in Children. Take Stock was established in 1995 as a nonprofit organization in Florida that provides a unique opportunity for low-income and at-risk students to escape the cycle of poverty through education. Take Stock offers students college scholarships, volunteer mentors, and hope for a better life. The success rates for Take Stock graduates are amazing. High school grad rate, 97%. Graduates go to college, 88%. College graduation rate, 70%. At the last board meeting, 2 speakers took issue with only $200 being charged per month for rent and utilities. I've spoken to the district's facilities administration to see how they determine the lease rate. He said the rate is set just to cover the cost because there's a direct benefit to students in the district from providing this office space to Take Stock. Does it really make sense to mark up the lease payments to generate a profit when this will diminish the funds available for scholarships for these kids? One speaker stated that Take Stock has $6 million in revenues and therefore should be made to pay a higher lease rate. The actual revenues for Take Stock for the last available year on GuideStar were $844,000. The $6 million that she referred to is not a revenue stream, but rather an asset on the balance sheet of the organization. And you want to know what that asset is? It's prepaid scholarships for the students that are currently in college and the ones that will be going to college. Should we somehow liquidate that asset so we can pay a higher rental rate to the school district? Really? Why don't we just consider the benefit to the kids who complete this program as a markup for the rent? Unlike the speakers, I took the time to speak directly with Lisa Bechtold, who leads Take Stock in Sarasota. Ms. Bechtold said she'd be more than happy to speak with anyone.
Angela Wynn.
My name is Ashton Beaudry. Just to clarify, out of 42,000 students that we have enrolled, Take Stock is only working with 179 students. Also, I was hoping that you would mention that the leader of Take Stock is in a group that is led by Bill Gates, George Soros. I'm sure you guys love them though, right? Anyways, back to what I was here for to talk on. I wanted to talk about Dr. Asplin, the board members, and Mr. Johnson DeLeo being the gatekeepers of our children. And you are allowing foundations or community partners to control our district. It's time for our district to step in and utilize, specifically direct the foundation resources instead of the foundations directing our children's education. The graduation gap shows that the efforts made by the foundations do not work. I believe it's a conflict of interest that our attorney sits as the chairman on the board of the largest foundation in Sarasota, the Community Foundation. Is he here to practice law, or is he here to protect his foundation's interest? Also, he runs Citizens for Better Schools, the political committee for our referendum. It sounds like he's here to protect his interest, not our children and other board members.
Robin Williams, Carol Lerner, Rana Bazzini.
I'm Robin Williams. I'm Jewish, and Florida has Holocaust education. A lesson of the Holocaust. Banning books is what the Nazis did. They passed repressive laws. They had relentless propaganda repeating a big lie. They created a climate of fear. DeSantis passed legislation creating a climate of fear in Sarasota. Pine View's principal threatened to turn off the mic on the student president at the commencement address if he mentioned support for the LGBTQ community and opposition to the Don't Say Gay law. Why? Perhaps fear for his job and safety. After several parents here railed against the bluest eye and sold at the last school board meeting, Dr. Asplin had them removed from library shelves. Why? Perhaps fear for his job and safety. This is what the falsely named parental rights in the K-12 book banning law have wrought. I'll be sure to work to make sure merchants of hate and censorship are voted out of office. While Proud Boys and Associates created chaos without security intervention at the last board meeting, what's been under the radar is the latest for-profit Charter School USA attempt to bring in its Welland Park School in Northport. Charter School USA is the second largest for-profit education management organization in the nation, with heads John and Sherry Haig making mega millions off its schools, built on the cheap at taxpayer expense. Guess they don't have to worry about banned books because many of their inferior schools don't have libraries, not to mention luxuries like auditoriums or gyms. None of their 4 kids went to any of the 8 of their own schools, their own charter schools in their area, because they're bargain basement warehouses.
Ainsley Bakandi.
Carol Lerner. Good afternoon. I have earlier spoken before this body outlining why the Sarasota School Board should reject the pending Charter School USA application to develop a K-8 charter school, college preparatory academy at Welland Park. Today, I will present very disturbing information that should result in a 5-0 rejection of this application. Florida law, state law, makes it easy for large charter school companies to gain charter school approval. The law makes it difficult to reject a charter school if the company chooses an existing high-performing charter school to replicate. Charter School USA did that for this application, choosing Clay Charter Academy in Clay County. But in an annual site visit report by Clay County District Schools completed on February 18th, 2022, some disturbing information was uncovered, including more than 50% of the criteria examined for ESE were partially or not at all satisfied, including such important issues as not assigning case managers to ESE students and often not providing therapies to students. For English language learners, students were not screened for entry into ESOL programs. Required meetings were not held with parents, and none of the required monitoring occurred. For curriculum, high-level evidence-based reading materials were not utilized and replaced with worksheet packets and online programs. Medicine cabinets in their clinic were left unlocked in an unlocked room with no staff of any kind present. Approximately 40% of the teachers were not certified or licensed for the course codes labeled in their schedule. This is a small sampling of the deficits found, and I gave you all much bigger reports. Based on the replication school site visit alone, every board member should reject this application.
Carrie Parks.
Good afternoon, Dr. Asplin, board members, Attorney DeLeo. My name is Rana Bizzini. I feel like Friday the 13th has turned into Groundhog Day. What I'm actually here to speak about is the proposed application by USA for a for-profit charter school. We've been there, we've done that. In 2018, the Sarasota School Board wisely denied the application of Academica for a for-profit charter school in a 4-to-1 vote. USA is a similar for-profit charter school. There is one now operating in Bradenton, which seems to be struggling greatly with an enrollment far below that was anticipated. Once again, the Sarasota School Board has the opportunity to do the right thing. Our children are not for profit. Please deny the application for USA, the charter school for profit in Sarasota. And just one quick note, I have a little minute here. I totally understand Mr. Edwards' thinking about changing the rules. I have to say I agree with Mrs. Ziegler. It was done at the wrong time. If you remember that meeting, that it was discussed all across the agenda, all across the room, everybody agreed it was not the time to change the rules. I've never seen that happen before. So I do hope you do revisit it. Thank you very much.
Sally Nista.
Dr. Asplin, school board members, my name is Ainsley Bacondi, and I'm going to speak on mental health in our public schools. Mental health is very important to children and teenagers because they have lots on their plates and they are learning new skills every day. Some people say they need counselors or therapists, but in my opinion, I think God is the only one who can help you. Yes, a counselor or therapist may help you learn coping skills, but God is the only one who can heal you completely inside and out. There is never going to be real healing unless God is involved. Another reason there is mental health crisis is that some counselors in the public school are pressuring kids like me that I might be gay or trans and encourage me to rebel against parents and church. For example, at the last board meeting, there was a counselor sitting next to me and my mom. She started arguing with me if we had inappropriate books in our library. If a counselor is that way in front of my mom, what would she be like when my parents aren't present? You see, the Bible clearly shows what happens when we forget about God. It is detailed in Romans chapter 1, verses 18 through 32. And verse 20, we start worshiping things rather than God. In verse 27, there's the rise of the LGBTQ movement. And then in verse 28, people develop a depraved mind, not being able to think correctly. What is the solution to the mental health crisis? 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 7 tells us that it is God who gives us a sound mind. God, through his son, Jesus Christ, will save you and give you a sound mind. If you want these types of counselors and therapists in our schools, then you need God. I will be praying for you. Thank you.
Tanya Paris.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Parks. Thanks for the opportunity to come. I was just informed yesterday. I have 3 sons at Alta Vista, ages 4, 6, and 8, that the Reading Recovery Program was at stake or on the block. So I don't even know why it is. but I just wanted to share that my 8-year-old, who is not dyslexic, enrolled at Alta Vista last year for first grade, and within a month, it was detected that he was one of the 34% of children that were below grade reading level, and started the program with their teacher over there for individual lessons. And he just received and earned his second AR reading award at this third marking period. You know, he doesn't go to bed at night without reading before bed, which to think 2 years ago that that would ever happen, it wouldn't. I have 4 very close friends who are all educators, and you know, the one common thing that each of them share and have shared with me is that they each had one single teacher in each of their educational careers that changed them and led them to become educators. And I got to tell you, like, I'm blown away that the Reading Recovery Program is in jeopardy. If anyone can answer, I've never been to a meeting like this. It's kind of crazy, to tell you the truth. But I'd love to know more about why it would be. I would imagine it's funding, but is there anywhere I can learn more about why reading recovery would be taken away?
Tanya Paris, Tunde Olson.
Someone will speak with you, sir, about that.
Sally Nista. I wanted to talk to you about the raise that we're considering giving Dr. Asplin. I like Dr. Asplin. I think he's a wonderful man. But Dr. Asplin doesn't deserve a raise because he really is just an employee and not a leader of this district. I have a couple of reasons. We lost $12 million because Dr. Asplin allowed this board to break the law with a mask mandate. He knew it was the wrong thing for this district. He asked the question before the vote. He followed through on their bad decision and forced our young, vulnerable children to do something we now know is harmful and unnecessary. A leader would have said, "Not on my watch. I'm in charge. I follow the law. This district will follow the law. If you don't like the law, go through the channels and change it." He didn't do that. He's just an employee. Reason number 2, he's allowing pornography in our schools. And again, he just sits on his hands, allowing our children to be groomed. He's heard what's in these books and hasn't stepped up to remove them. Like an employee with no leadership ability, he just lets it go. Reason number 3, our school system has moved from consistently being number 2 in the state to tied to number 6, all under his watch. That sounds like lack of leadership. He's just an employee of the school board. Number 4, he has allowed Sarasota schools to be a vessel for political activism rather than being an educational institute. His support for ideologies such as gender diversity and the equity policy are just 2 of many examples of this. Dr. Asplin just seems to go along to whatever flavor of the month is, and he acts like an employee. Let's use the raise that we would give him to give to our frontline teachers. And again, I think he's a really wonderful man, but not a leader. Thank you.
Amy Bates, Kathy Monda.
Good afternoon. My name is Tunde Olson. I'm a very proud reading recovery and resource teacher at Tuttle Elementary. This is my 21st year working for the same school and a 7-year working as a reading recovery teacher. Part of my job duties include I teach 4 reading recovery students. I also teach at least 40 more students in small group. I'm a 3rd grade team leader. I teach a 3rd grade reading block, all 120 minutes of it. I collaborate with my peers on best practices in literacy. I'm a part of my literacy leadership team in my school, and I'm a lead mentor for new hires, about 5 each year for our school, if not 10. I have more than 1,000 professional development hours, and I was a literacy teacher for District of Sarasota, and a teacher of the year a few years back. If you wonder how I'm able to have the knowledge to fulfill all these jobs and responsibilities, is due to the reading recovery training and an ongoing professional development I am receiving. Since being trained in reading recovery, our school turned into an always inquisitive side, where we understand that not one program and not one textbook and not one kit that we receive for reading can teach our students to read. Teachers come to me and colleagues with data, and together we search for any and all available best practices to help the students perform to their highest potential. We do not just use reading recovery strategies and skills, but we dig deep into each student's strengths and weaknesses, and I help teachers add new strategies to their teaching toolbox. In the past 7 years, I learned more about children's literature, teaching reading, guided reading and writing, phonics, word work, oral language, phonemic awareness, higher order comprehension in early grades, and collaborated with colleagues more than I ever did in 14 years I taught in the county before. Reading recovery is giving me the tools to best help all students succeed, no matter what program they need.
Louise Machinist.
My name is Amy Bates. I'm a proud parent of 3 Sarasota County students and a proud reading recovery teacher at Tuttle as well. My days are just as busy as Tunda's. I have a master's in education with 2,378 hours of professional development, including 726 hours specifically related to best practices for students with disabilities. Last year, my principal invited me to the Florida Summer Literacy Institute, where I had the pleasure of attending a session presented by Dr. Judith Cohen, president of the Florida branch of the International Dyslexia Association. She shared nearly 130 slides about how to best teach students with dyslexia. Reports may say that reading recovery doesn't work for these students, but I was reassured to see that not one thing she shared was new to my reading recovery colleagues or I. We are already implementing all of her research and best practices. There are no sides in teaching reading. There are only individual children with varied needs who deserve instruction that will help them grow. I'm lucky to teach English language learners, students with language impairments, visual processing, and phonological processing challenges, and more. In reading recovery, we design individual learning plans for every child. Deep observation and analysis occurs for every single child, every single day, as does collaboration with colleagues. Until every one of my students is reading on grade level, I will continue learning, reading the latest research and adjusting instruction. If you'd like to learn more about the great things that are happening in our schools, we are always looking for substitutes and volunteers. You're also welcome to come shadow us. Just be prepared to put in hours before and after school and on weekends too. Thank you.
Ms. Machinist, Kathy Monda is before you.
Oh, sorry.
And then Kathy and Tunis.
My name is Kathy Monda, and I am also a very proud reading recovery teacher. I work at Englewood Elementary School. I did want to clarify that reading recovery is an intervention that is implemented prior to any ESC decisions are made. And it is important for me to say that after a year of reading recovery intervention, our students in Sarasota County do continue to receive support with us, as you previously heard from my colleagues, in small groups through 3rd grade to help ensure continued growth and success. I come here today to share some feedback from 2nd through 5th grade teachers at my school on the progress and overall success of former reading recovery students as they move through the higher grades. 2nd grade advanced work placement teacher. I have 2 former students in my class from reading recovery. These students came with the confidence of reading to be successful in an advanced classroom. They worked hard and were proud of their reading. 3rd grade teacher. These students have a special demeanor. They truly appreciate reading because they once struggled with it and now have fostered an intense love and understanding of reading. Every single one of the students that have participated in the program in my class have demonstrated mastery of the 3rd grade reading curriculum on the FSAs. 2nd grade teacher. I have never had a reading recovery student not show significant growth in their reading, shown through their reading levels and iReady reading scores. Most growth is 100 to 200% annually on their iReady reading. 5th grade. This student finished the year as the highest performing student in his class. He had all A's, all 4 quarters, and performed above the level of his peers consistently throughout the year. He has been recommended to continue his education in an advanced program in middle school. 5th grade advanced work placement teacher. He is a hard-working, successful member of the accelerated work class here as a 5th grader. He has maintained above average grades in ELA the entire year. He will be receiving a Presidential Excellence Award at our 5th grade promotion ceremony. Thank you.
Teresa DeWitt? Yeah, you're up.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm new to these meetings. I don't quite have the hang of, understanding the queue. But my name's Louise Moshinist. I'm a taxpayer. I also, in my career, was a clinical psychologist working with children and families for 43 years, but not in Sarasota. So many things are new to me here. And I wouldn't have expected that being a retiree, I'd want to come to school board meetings, but I think as what I consider to be a moderate taxpayer interested in the well-being of kids and the community, that this situation that's going on here that's so appalling makes me know that I need to come and try to understand what's going on. So what I wanted to talk about at first was about the process for approving or not approving books for the libraries, but a lot of that was really answered today. I was glad to hear about that there's a process. And of course, everything is more complex than what many of the speakers here would let on, because of course, context and which students are reading which books, the context of how they're presented, all those things are so important, but that's left out of the complaints here, and that's very unfortunate. So I find it amazing that 7 people want to run for school board at this point, because I feel sorry for all of you to have to deal with this horrible situation, and the rants and the complaints and this entire climate of negativity here is incomprehensible to me. I don't understand it. I think that it should be clear to everybody that public schools are not religious schools. There are religious schools for people who want to put their children into religious schools. So many of these things are hard for me to understand. I think we need to support the sort of normal concerned parents and taxpayers, and I'm pleased that this meeting, in most respects, was less contentious and disturbing than some others I've attended. Just a simple request, I would like you to prevent people from bringing their noisemakers. The little clickers are really annoying and very immature. Thank you.
Kathy Antunes, Brian Wilson, Teresa DeWitt.
Good afternoon. I want to start by saying I'll take a blessing from Barbara Vaughn any day. It's good to see you. I'm calling to express concern about corporate for-profit charter schools and what's going on with the state and potentially with our county. One, I want to highlight a mercenary practice where corporate charter schools can use a tactic. They get a September payment, they get a February payment, and they have released students ostensibly for the purpose of taking kids out of their test scores. Potential low performers get released. And then in the middle of the school year, these children have to go to a different school, a real public school, who will accept them. It's a mercenary practice. Parents, for those who care about parents' rights, have absolutely no recourse when that happens. You do not have any rights when a corporate charter school says your kid has to leave. The state has instituted a charter school review commission, which will remove local control and put the decision to approve a charter school under a Department of Education led by someone who worked for Academica. This is insane. It is a mercenary practice. I'm a product of public schools. Public schools can be great. I've seen them work. And so everybody has to have a much higher level conversation about the agenda that is really at work here while we're distracted by all these social things that, yes, we have to work out as a community. We really do. And lastly, I want to thank this board on behalf of all the people who are alive, because you did the right thing. You required masks, and God knows who they are, even though we don't.
Brian Wilson, Teresa DeWitt, Zimara Deering, sorry.
Good afternoon, board members and others. I'm here today to discuss a recent attempt at defunding our district's reading recovery and leveled literacy intervention, which is being brought before the board. I'm a father of 2 children in the district, one of whom has utilized the services that Reading Recovery offers. I'll get to that shortly. The commercials when I was growing up, they all said reading is fundamental. A kid that reads becomes an adult that reads, and I really wish that individuals attempting to discredit and remove our reading programs had followed that advice. Our Facebook post attempting to garner support against these programs used very harsh rhetoric, definitive phrases against the program, while supporting those statements with citations referencing multiple studies involving the program, none of which make any sense. Had the authors of the Facebook post actually read the studies, they would have seen that the accusations they're making were false. As much as I'd like to go into specifics, I don't have time tonight. I do have the information available. I'll email all of you as well. I'm just trying to cut it short because I got 2 minutes. The basic facts of the cited studies used by those opposing the programs ironically conclude that those programs provide, quote, large and rigorous evidence of immediate impacts and, large and rigorous evidence of immediate impact. And while those programs in later grades are present, the reasons why are inconclusive. The most important thing I want to say tonight is that my daughter, Hannah Wilson, she is now in 2nd grade. She was put into the program in 1st grade. We are a family of readers. She was read to every single night. We're very involved parents, and still she struggled with reading. I was contacted by Miss Deering at her school, a recent Literacy Teacher of the Year, and I did not fully understand the program she was discussing, but I said, let's go for it. I'm not an educator, you are. Let's do it.
Jen Coppell.
Okay, so I'm Teresa DeWitt, and I'm here to speak on the iReady. And so what I wanted to do is I really wanted to speak more from the kindergarten level and from a teacher perspective as a parent who is really wants to support the teachers. So I wanted to just provide some feedback from my children's scores that I just received. Overall, the reading scores were pretty accurate. But at the same time, it doesn't quite give a clear picture of all the interventions that are currently being done, such as their goals have been modified, they're participating on the tier system, they're given a different reward system, they've been recommended for summer reading, but yet they show grade level. So that may be an education piece for me, a learning curve for me to understand how, if I wasn't on the ground, I wasn't involved as I am, I haven't had meetings with Dr. Asplin and with Ms. Karen and with the district, I would not understand if I was just I am a new parent looking at these scores. But I am upset and I am concerned about the math. And one of the things that I did, I have repeatedly asked the school, can I help? What do I need? Some basic math literacy skill sets to help with the kids, with the twins. So, excuse me, as of April 26th, I was told that academics were over. We have a month left. I evaluated my own children. They both can only count to 30. I've worked for the last 3 weeks in the car for 15 minutes. I've improved them from 30 to 60. And they couldn't also count by tens. Those are standards that are required. But I have been told repeatedly that, no thank you, I don't need your help, we're fine. And then I get these scores. There is a communication gap. So, I don't know how much time I have left. So, anyway, Tom, I listened to you guys for 5 hours this week while I was multitasking. And I have this radical idea for these teachers. I want to ask everyone in this room, can you teach 18 children to read by yourself?
Marjorie Peter.
Daddy teaches you can be anything in this world that you want to be, right? Don't Daddy teach you that? Sir, can I have your name?
Doesn't matter
May I have
if
your
you're
name,
black
sir?
or white or any color.
Doesn't matter if you're black, white, brown, yellow, right?
Black.
And how we
I'm
treat people
supposed
is
to hear
based
from
on who they
Zimara
are,
Deering.
not
And if
what
they're
color
nice.
they are.
And if they're nice and smart.
See, this is how
Excuse me, sir?
children think right here.
I'm sorry?
Well, your name, please?
I'm sorry, it's John Coppell.
You're supposed, well, Zamara, I'm sorry, he jumped ahead of you.
Do you want me to wait?
That's okay, well,
I thought you called my name. I'm sorry about that.
that's okay, we're in a queue, but that's all right, if you're okay with that. Thank you.
Right here. Critical race theory wants to end that. Not with my children. It's not gonna happen. My baby's gonna know that no matter what she wants to be in life, all she has to do is work hard, and she can become that.
Work hard even though you don't know anyone. You can make friends.
Yeah, you can make friends, no matter what color they are. So we need to stop CRT. Period. Point blank. Children do not see skin color, man. They love everybody. If they're good people, they love them.
We pray for people that are hurt.
I hope you enjoy. Is this on? I hope you enjoyed that. It was really beautiful and touching. And I think it would be nice if the school board members would reconsider their approach to schooling in general. That is, with pornography in the books, with CRT, with this gender nonsense. And also, I didn't know that Mr. Asplin had forced masks on children. I mean, I've known from the beginning this is horrendous for your health, both mental, physical, psychological, and to give the idea to give a raise to someone who wants to asphyxiate, I don't have that wrong, but to block the oxygen of the young people and to follow the guidance of Fauci and Bill Gates.
Zamara Deering,
is pure
Marjorie
evil.
Peter, Chad Crowell. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Deering.
Oh, no problem. Good afternoon, board members, community members. My name is Xiomara Deering. I am a teacher at Ashton Elementary. I have been teaching for 17 years. I have a master's in educational leadership. And the last 8 years I've been at Ashton, 5 years of which I've been a reading recovery teacher. And today I wanted to speak to our students that we meet every day with, and we work collaboratively with our colleagues. Just today, our lit lessons teacher rushed in my room to bring her student in to share the growth that she's made this year. And we celebrated with our student with tears in our eyes, literally tears in our eyes. The emotion that you feel when you work with your peers is just amazing. There's nothing like it. And this was after she had already been to her homeroom teacher. So her lesson today was cut because they had to walk around the school parading her and visiting all her teachers and discussing all the accomplishments that she made, and she was beaming with pride. Just recently, with one of our first grade students, who is my reading recovery student, I was meeting with the first grade teacher, and Miss Valentine was telling me, I just wish he would have had this sooner. He has soared, he has grown. His scores are just amazing. And then lastly, watching one of my second graders walk around school, the only one in her lunch line with a book underneath her arm as she's walking out of the cafeteria, telling me about her book, telling me about her Harry Potter books that she's reading, enjoying them, not because of a level, because she loves to read and now she's confident. This is what we do as reading recovery students and we as reading recovery teachers, and we welcome new ways of helping our students, all of our students, whatever their needs are, like Dr. Asplin said earlier, adding to our toolkits, whatever it may be, meeting our students, whether it's reading recovery or not. We're passionate about helping our students with literacy. And finally, working again with our colleagues together to solve these students' problems. Thank you so much for listening today.
Good afternoon. My name's Marjorie Peter, been a resident since 1987. Our 3 boys graduated years ago, and they enjoyed their public education here. I came because I had seen on the agenda that you were considering leasing space to take stock in children. A couple people have already addressed that. I was a mentor for that organization for 3 different students over about 15, 16 years. So I can speak from that perspective on how it was a very moving experience for me, and I hope for my students, because they matched the volunteers with students for whom the idea of applying to college was just out of the box. So we would get matched with the students in middle school to try to keep them on pace, to not listen to the naysayers, but to just be cheerleaders along the way. It was a fabulous program then. I haven't been involved in the last couple years, but there was always a scramble to find a spot for an office. So if there is a possibility that they can use an unused portable or something of that nature, I really hope you can consider that. The money is going for scholarships, so let's disabuse that notion that there's a pile of money waiting. And if there was disappointment with the number of 179 students impacted, it's they don't have volunteer mentors. A lot of people in this room, if you will commit to getting matched with a student in middle school and sticking with them once a week, meeting with them out at school campus, you can make a tremendous difference. But that's why there are so few students being impacted. Thank you.
Chad Crowell.
Hello, good afternoon. My son Max is in second grade. He was in reading recovery. Thanks to reading recovery in Atwater Elementary, he is now reading at a third grade level. We need to give our children the tools that they need in life. Please do our children right now and in the future, and fill their toolboxes with what they need for a successful life. Thanks for your time. God bless you.
Thank you all for your comments. Madam Chair, that concludes the general comments portion of the day.
Well, I want to thank you all and thank the board members and thank you all for being here today. Have a wonderful weekend. And for those of you who are interested, we'll have our next board meeting on Tuesday at 3 o'clock in Northport, the following Tuesday, which is May the 17th. Thank you.